Hello, I'm Hamish Erskine, a plumber in Exeter. In this video I want to talk about a problem I'm having with Bristan's range of Easyfit kitchen taps. Since June 2015, I've fitted 21 Easyfit kitchen taps for my customers. Recently, over a period of a few weeks, 3 of those customers have called me back to report that their tap has fallen off and flooded their kitchen. In one case it was 8 months after I installed the tap, in another case after 11 months, and in another case after 13 months. When these taps fail, they fail spectacularly. Suddenly and without warning, you find you have a water fountain in your kitchen with water bouncing off the ceiling. As a result, I'm now seriously concerned about the risk that these taps pose to my customers' properties. I've now been in communication with Bristan for over a month, trying to persuade them to take responsible action for what is clearly a design flaw. Firstly, let me explain why I chose to install these taps in the first place. I've always been impressed by the apparent quality of Bristan's taps, and together with their reasonable pricing, Bristan taps have always seemed like excellent value for money. When Bristan brought out the new Easyfit range of kitchen taps in 2014, they seemed like a really good idea. If you go to YouTube and search for Bristan Easyfit kitchen taps, you will find their promotional video featuring plumber Roger Bisbee, who shows you how they are fitted and why they're such a good idea. It's quite convincing. Very briefly, let me describe what's different about these taps. I'll start with a more common design of kitchen tap, and then I'll show you an Easyfit one. So here is a more common design. The pipe tails, which in this case are flexible, screw directly into the tap itself, creating a secure and watertight connection. The pipe tails pass through the hole in the kitchen sink, and they're secured from underneath by a horseshoe clamp and securing nut. This is a tried and tested design that has been used by many manufacturers for many years. So quite simply, it works. The downside is that installation can be awkward. It involves getting on your back under the kitchen sink, and access to the securing nut can be difficult. Typically, the sink waste has to be disconnected and moved aside. So while you have the discomfort of being on your back in an awkward, uncomfortable space, you may also have water dripping in your face from the waste pipe. It's an awkward job, but that's what you pay your plumber for. Now let's look at a Bristan Easyfit tap, in this case a Bristan Echo. In this case, the pipe tails attach to a brass base rather than to the tap itself. The base is first secured to the kitchen work surface and tightened from above using a large Allen key. Once that's secured to the surface, you then fit the tap onto the base, and the tap is then secured to the base by tightening 2 small grub screws using a smaller Allen key. Now, how is that an Easyfit tap? Well, the first time you fit one of these, it isn't really easier at all, because you still have to get on your back under the kitchen sink to remove the old one, and you still have to attach the pipe tails to the copper pipework underneath the sink. So it doesn't really make it easier the first time. The Easyfit idea is that some years down the line, when this tap wears out, so we're perhaps talking 5 to 10 years down the line, when that needs replacing, then all you would need to do is turn the water off, loosen the small grub screws with the Allen key, remove the tap from the base, and then fit a new tap, a new Easyfit tap, it might be a different model but still an Easyfit tap, onto the original base without having to change the base. And so The idea is that a subsequent replacement of one of these taps would be a 10-minute job instead of a 1-hour job. It sounds great, but there is at least one potential flaw. The design is only good as long as the grub screws which secure the tap to the base never come loose. If those work themselves loose, then mains water pressure is likely to cause the tap to detach from the base, and you suddenly find you've got a water fountain in your kitchen. Now, you might assume that Bristan had thoroughly tested their Easyfit design to ensure that could never happen before they started mass production. Unfortunately, out of 21 Easyfit taps that I have fitted, 3 have so far failed over a 15-month period. That's a 14% failure rate. Considering the seriousness of the problem, a 14% failure rate is way outside the limits of reasonable risk. Fortunately, in all 3 cases so far, the problem occurred while the customer was using the tap, so they were present and able to turn off the main stopcock before too much damage was done. They just had a bit of mopping up to do. Fortunately, none of them had a laptop sitting on the kitchen work surface that might have been ruined. Had this problem occurred when they were out, it would have been a different story, resulting in a major house flood. Had they been away on holiday at the time, they could have come home to a major disaster. In each of these 3 cases, I have managed to get to them within a few hours. I have reattached the tap and tightened the grub screws. I then contacted Bristan and asked them to send out an engineer to investigate the problem. Unfortunately, as of today, which is the 8th of September 2016, weeks have now gone by, but Bristan still haven't sent out an engineer. I've now had several discussions with Bristan's customer services about this problem. Initially, they said that in all the cases they had investigated, they had attributed the problem to installer error. As a professional plumber, I know that I've installed these taps correctly and have tightened the grub screws appropriately. In further discussions, it has emerged that they have made design modifications to their most recent models, but so far they have chosen not to issue a product recall on the earlier models. One of the reasons I installed these taps is that they come with a 5-year Bristan warranty. The first year covers parts and labour, and the remaining 4 years cover parts only. Technically, when my customers called me to report that their tap had fallen off and flooded their kitchen, I should have told them to call Bristan's customer services and claim under the Bristan guarantee. Bristan would then have sent out their own engineer, but they might have taken days to do so. Instead, because I take my own customer service seriously, I chose to attend myself, and I dealt with the immediate problem within a matter of hours. Unfortunately, it's left me in a situation. It's obvious to me that these taps contain a design flaw. When they fall off and flood a person's kitchen, that is a symptom of the fault, but it is not the fault itself. If I reattach the tap and tighten the grub screws, I have dealt with the symptom of the fault, but the tap remains faulty because the fault is in the design. And if the fault is in the design, it is Bristan's responsibility to honour their guarantee and replace the tap with one that isn't flawed. So far, even though I've given Bristan all my customer details, I've been unable to persuade them to contact my customers and arrange replacement of their faulty taps. Consequently, I am left having to alert my customers to the problem and request that they each individually call Bristan themselves and request a replacement. There are lots of different models in the Easyfit range, all of which share a common base. I have shown you the Bristan Echo. Out of 8 that I have fitted, 1 has so far failed. Another model is the Bristan Monza, of which I've fitted 6 and 2 have failed. I've spoken to another installer who has had the same problems with the Bristan Manhattan Easyfit kitchen tap. If you look on amazon.co.uk and look at the reviews for the Echo or the Manhattan, you will find some reports of this problem online. So far, I'm not aware of problems with other models such as the cinnamon, the cherry, or the tangerine. How many models are affected depends on an important question. Is the design flaw in the base, or is it in the tap? If it's in the base, then all Easyfit models may be affected because they share a common base. If it is in the tap, it may be limited to specific models and to specific batches of those models. Each tap has a serial number on the back, which identifies its batch. It would be helpful if Bristan issued a public recall identifying which models and batches are affected. Until they choose to do so, the only safe assumption is that all their Easyfit models are affected. If you are one of my customers, I am sorry about this situation. I always make it a policy to only install quality parts, and I have trusted in the quality of the Bristan brand. I request that you call Bristan's customer services on 0330 026 6273. Please ask Bristan to replace your faulty tap in accordance with their 5-year guarantee. Thank you.